Hello, welcome back again to our weekly hashtag Marketplace Influencer. Our guest today is the president of Chinoy TV. Recently, if you started following in CNN and some other platforms, they have this documentary called Chinese by Blood, Filipino by Heart. So without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Mr. Alvin Tan.
Hey Tommy, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be guesting here in your program or webinar. Yeah.
Especially we live in a world na diversity inclusion is being highly discussed across the world. Actually, dito sa Pilipinas, hindi ko pa masyadong naririnig. Medyo tumatapang yung ibang mga groups. But in other parts of the globe, diversity is really being discussed. Kasi isa sa mga laging tanong, kahit ako when I started working, may mga wrong notions about Chinoys. Kahit ako, pagpasok, kasi every time I go enter a organization, I rarely see any Chinoys. Probably kung ako lang nag-iisa or it's really there. It really pushed me in a situation where I have to adjust. What does the thing that we get to see about Chinoys?
Okay. Actually, the usual negative notion that Chinoys get is that our loyalties with China. Diba? It's always like that. Like every time we get questions na, oh, I think pag naggera daw or if nag-fight daw sa basketball yung China and Philippines, then the Chinoys would always side with China. Diba? So it's always like that. Even with Chinoy TV, we've been airing for the past 10 years and we're producing Mr. and Miss Chinatown also. So every time we air on a mainstream channel, we'd usually get comments na, oh, balik na kayo sa China. Mga ganon. But for me, so actually that was the inspiration on why we actually started this documentary. Because if you remember it, like few months ago, there was an issue. There was a TV program that came out on ABS-CBN news channel, and then parang they were labeled na parang they were doing a newscast, a Chinese newscast, which actually sparked a lot of anger within the Filipino community. It actually added to the there was an issue also last year about an MTV about Isang Dagat. So actually all of this created it actually created a negative connotation, especially with the Chinoy community. So for us as a TV program, kasi with Chinoy TV, we used to be a lifestyle magazine show. But we felt that when the pandemic started, we felt that being a lifestyle, parang masyadong mababaw. If our contents are just promoting about lifestyle like travel, where to eat, where to travel, and given that we're in the pandemic, and then we saw that there are bigger issues that we need to address on, like Chinoy TV being Chinoy TV, which Chinoy means Chinese Filipino, diba? We realized that being a TV program or a media entity for the Chinese Filipino community, we felt that we need to step up and actually try to correct this wrong notion so that there will be a better understanding between the Chinese and the Filipino community.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. The next question ko lang is, kasi I find the Chinoy TV very interesting. How did it really started and how you found your niche as a Chinoy TV?
Okay. Actually, we started 10 years ago. 10 years ago, my dad used to have a partner, and then my mom took over, and then there were some differences, so naghiwalay technically. So but from the perspective of my dad when they started this, the goal was just really to give back to the Chinoy community. So just at that time, the contents were very medyo pang senior. Like we only feature what's happening in the Chinoy community, the events, and the target market are the senior Chinoy market, meaning these are the Chinese newspaper readers. So when I came in 2010, so what I told my mom at that time was if I'll join this business, sabi ko I want to make it kumbaga we need to be able to target my generation, my market, kasi I'm not part naman of the primary target market diba? So sabi ko we need to make it more youthful, more relevant, more lifestyle, because for me kumbaga it's hard for me to think of ideas if hindi naman ako nanonood. Diba? So from 2010, we decided to, from a typical parang news program na showing the current events within the Chinoy community, we decided to move to Net25. Actually, so yun pala, when the partnership split, so naghiwala yun, nag-create na kami ng bagong show. So we started Chinoy TV, the other partner have their own. So we started on Net25 and we brought, we launched Chinoy TV as a lifestyle magazine show. So we feature profiles, personalities, food, fashion, travel. So basically any lifestyle topic. So from 2010, we've been transferring from one station to another. So from Net25, we moved to PTV4, to Living Asia, to ABS-CBN News Channel, and then now to CNN. But the pandemic actually from 2010 until 2019, non-stop yun. As in tuloy-tuloy yung airing namin. But actually the pandemic caused us to stop. So we stopped for 18 months. But in a way, it became a blessing in disguise, in my opinion, because it gave us the opportunity to reevaluate what's our purpose. Because at that time, parang yun nga, like with you mentioned that you've heard of Chinoy TV, but probably narinig lang, but not really a viewer. So we felt that we were airing the past 9 years creating contents, but the contents that we're producing are not necessarily relevant. Diba? It's just good to be out there. But so yun, we used the 18-month stoppage to reevaluate our mission. So we pivoted. So we started developing our digital platform. So we were able to build our online team. So now we have presence in social media. We also have a website. And when we were able to establish all of these new media platforms, so that's the time we decided to bring back the TV program. So at that time, as mentioned, the inspiration there was, we realized that there's a lot of negative notions. Plus the fact that, just to share lang din, the last episode, the last season that we aired on ANC, we really didn't do very well. In terms of ratings, I think the last update that we got from our ratings company, we actually rated 0, meaning sabi daw wala daw nanood. So it all of this became an eye-opener for us. Diba? Because especially that people are saying that, and then wala na nanonood ng television. Diba? People are just watching via Netflix or via online. So sabi namin, us being Chinoy TV as a brand, of course, there's the TV kasi sa brand ng Chinoy TV. So we felt that TV is part of our DNA. So we felt now, sige, let's try this. Let's try to go back again on television for the last time. But if we're coming back again this time around, we want it to be the best amongst all of the contents that we produce. So that's why we decided to reformat, come up with a totally new concept, and make it more like mas purposeful. That's why we highlighted the mission of Chinoy TV, which is to establish the Chinoy identity of Chinese by blood, Filipino by heart. So so basically that's the story behind it.
Thank you for sharing that. Actually, favorite show episode there is I shared earlier, Sister Resita's Angsi. Kasi I remember that time, I was college na ata yun, 2000 na, no? 2000. So college na rin ako. Hindi ko masyadong naintindihan talaga nangyari because there was no social media that time. Or if ever there's a social media that time, it was not as vibrant and very toxic as now. Kasi toxic na eh. Kasi yung Facebook, I think 2004 talaga. So we don't have that avenue to understand these things actually. That time, parang ako hindi ko nga masyado naintindihan. Ito pala nangyari. Ito pala na ito pala yung nangyari kay Teresita Angsi na parang misunderstood siya because of media also. But when I heard about her story, sabi ko, she is really Filipino and she did her part also. And what helped me about that current series on Chinoy by blood, Filipino by heart, kasi for a while talagang I assimilated na as a Filipino. Hindi ko na naisip yung for a while I was active a bit sa Philchai community namin sa friends, naging active ako doon. But when I left that, I was assimilated as a Filipino for some reason. Hindi nga ako namumukhang Chinese, napapagkamalan pa akong Amerikano actually. Some people think I was American pa nga. So I assimilated, I really adjusted that way. But when I saw this, this is timely for me kasi now that everyone's talking about diversity, inclusion, kasi I'm active in the marketplace ministry, many of the people I encountered lost their jobs. Tapos nakita ko din, bakit hindi sila marketable, hindi sila Tapos nakita ko, they did not assimilate to what's going on globally. Kasi example na lang, ito na nalaman ko, marami palang hinahire ng Pilipino sa Facebook. Siyempre, nitindi ko din bakit hinahire nila. And as I found out, like Facebook Ireland, sample, nag-hire ng mga Pilipino. I realized kasi, part of diversity inclusion is understanding the market. Philippines is a Facebook capital in Asia, or hindi ko na lang kung how far we are. So for them to strengthen its market in Asia, they have to hire a lot of Filipinos. They have to hire a lot of Filipinos. Ganun yung ginagawa ng mga Unilever, na mga the multinational. For them to get into the market, they have to hire people from that area. But I was thinking, how come Filipinos are not ready? And I realized one of the things that we should learn is diversity inclusion. Na ikaw mag-adjust ka sa culture, you have to understand bakit ganun yung kultura. That's why it's nice for you to share this also. And when I was trying to assess bakit ganun, I guess there's a part of culture in the Philippines that we are a bit divisive also. We're a bit divisive kasi you could see that in politics. Maraming yung pinag-aawayan talaga eh. TV network, kung ano yan. So divisive. And siguro before we end, what's your advice? Siguro a bit on entrepreneurship and a bit on Chinoys also. Especially Chinoys relating to Filipinos. What's your advice?
Yeah, I think I'll start muna with the Chinoys. I think with Chinoys, this is what one thing kasi we've talked to different resource persons. I think if there's one thing that I learned from them is that I think we need to embrace both our Chinese and Filipino side. We don't necessarily need to choose because me growing up, my parents would always put into my mind, hindi, you're a Lanang, you're not a Philippine lang. So there's always the seniors would always encourage the younger generation to choose na hindi ka Philippine lang, you're a Lanang. But I realized that us being Chinoys, we're like parang unique yung breed natin. It's similar naman to the Phil-Ams, the Phil-Canadians.
Yes.
Diba? Like I think we don't necessarily need to choose, but the most important is to really embrace your Filipino and your Chinese side, meaning your duality. I think once you're able to accept both, then everything just follows. Kumbaga, the problem lang naman dyan when we're asked to choose. But if we're able to set into our mind that there's no need for us to choose, we can be, sabi nga nung one of the speakers, I cannot remember who's one of the resource person, I think it's Doreen. Diba? We need to love, we need to treat ourselves as 100% Filipino, 100% Chinese, and equals 200%. Diba? We don't need naman. Oh yeah, I think it's one of the speakers. So in short, we don't need to limit ourselves sa 100% lang. So that's for the Chinoy. At the same time, I think we also need to realize that us being Chinoy, it's a privilege. Diba? We're here, and then our Chinese ancestors moved here. The Filipino community embraced us. Diba? I think we need to see that as a privilege. At the same time, treat that as a responsibility also in terms of us being the bridge between the Chinese and the Filipino community. So that's for the first. The second one is the advice naman for so entrepreneurship side. I think this pandemic, kumbaga this pandemic has actually made us realize so many things. Like all of us naman, all of us businessmen are actually affected by the pandemic, diba? But I think right now what the pandemic has actually taught us is for us to actually think about deeply what our purpose is. Diba? Like, typically for us naman sa businessman, it's always, iba sa school, it's always minimize cost and maximize income. That's how we're programmed yung mind natin na it's always earning money. But I think the pandemic taught us to I think doing a business with a purpose is very important, because that's how you actually gain or get your strength when things are not doing well on the business side. Diba? It gives you the reason to push forward. So I think that's one. The second one is, for me, I think the pandemic taught us the importance of being adaptable. I think right now we're in the stage wherein a lot of things are unpredictable. Diba? Before, we have to do planning, we have to do annual planning, mga ganyan eh. We do a lot of advanced planning. But the pandemic changed everything, diba? Na even if you're the biggest company here doing a lot of planning, advanced planning, at the end of the day, it's all about how well you can adapt to the scenario. And so I think yun. Like I think it's important for us to prepare ourselves, be adaptable, and just kumbaga, whatever challenges that's given to us, we just accept that it is the best. It is what it is. It is God's plan for us, diba? Kumbaga, I think yun eh. Whatever presented to us, whether it's positive or whether it's negative, there's a purpose. And yun lang, kumbaga, we just need to trust Him, think of ways on how to overcome it. And of course, at the end of the day, I believe that everything will just fall into place. And as we look back in the years to come, then we'll probably say na it was a blessing at the end of the day.
Okay. Siguro yung isang natutunan ko what you shared is what you mentioned as how to adapt and how to be resilient also. Kasi I learned recently, adapting is this is the situation, how would you cope with it? Resilience is how you move forward with it. And nakita ko din is how Chinoy TV, from what you shared, from a lifestyle, this and that, all of a sudden, it reinvented itself. Kasi kahit yung mentor ko, kahit yung hindi discuss right now sa career right now, there's a need to reinvent actually. In general, everyone's trying to reinvent themselves. Because if you don't reinvent, you are not gonna last at all. So you have to reinvent. You have to figure out a new way to do things also. And just like yung understanding Chinoys, kasi ako din naman, nisip ko din naman as we discover, I've learned one thing about maybe not just dealing with Chinoys. Don't assume. Try to understand first. Kasi, example, not all Filipinos speak Tagalog. We can assume that all Filipinos speak Tagalog, pero hindi totoo yan. May mga kilala ko dito, they don't speak Tagalog. So, you cannot assume it that way also. You cannot assume all Filipinos are the same. Kasi if you get to deal with Filipinos who grew up in a different country, iba ng culture nila, hindi sila Pilipino. Kahit full 100% Pilipino sila, but may nakilala ko, talagang Pilipina talaga, pero she grew up, she was born there, talagang ibang-iba na ng kultura niya. So, yun nga naintindihan ko din na the culture changes everything. So, there's a cultural thing. Kasi naisip ko sa NBA sila Jalen Green. I'm looking forward to Jalen Green I look na Phil-Am. Kasi even though people say he's Filipino, pero he's so American yung the way his culture. Kasi doon na siya lumaki Kita mo si Jordan Clarkson, American. But at the same time, trying to build relationships. Kasi isang natutunan ko yan sa Houston Rockets Nakita ko yan sa Houston Rockets actually. I don't know if you get to follow that. When I was understanding their marketing strategy, they drafted Yao Ming. They gambled to draft Yao Ming. And the next thing you know, they were able to build a good Chinese market. Talagang yung jersey nila, naka-Chinese words na rin. Talagang yun na yung naging kultura nila. Talagang they're building That's why I think they took a gamble on Jalen Green para i-build na lalo yung Asian market nila. Si Dallas nga, nagbi-build sila ng European market. Si Houston, mas catered to the Asian market. May kanya-kanyang strategy Nakita ko din siya. Now I understand na in our day and age also, we need to understand other cultures. Especially it's getting smaller na din eh. It's getting global. And for us Filipinos, kasi Filipino man din naman tayo because of the culture, in order for us to compete globally, we have to understand what's going on across the world also and understanding. We need to get rid of any assumptions. Kaya nga nakita ko din yan sa abroad, nakita ko yung resume. Ang laki ng pinagkaiba sa Pilipinas. Sa resume sa abroad, if you're gonna apply for work abroad, dapat walang picture mo. Walang civil status. Walang age, walang religion. Kasi hindi ko bakit walang mga kasi pag tinignan yung itsura, di mo gusto, hindi mo nakukunin. Kung nakita mo ay may asawa to, baka may maternity leave na natin kunin. Ay matanda na to, pag na. So instead of that, they remove all those things. Ang titignan na what can they offer, what they can offer. And the same thing siguro in understanding Chinoys also is just look at what Chinoys can offer to the society. Before you put any assumptions, Chinoys are doing something in the society also. At the same time, I get to see also, because I've been accustomed to doing marketplace ministry, Filipinos are doing something. Don't put any assumptions also, because not everyone's the same. And thank you, Brother Alvin, Mr. Alvin Kingson Tan, for taking your time. Just in case you want to know more about the ongoing pa pala yung Chinese by Blood, Filipino by Heart. I'll just tag everything in the caption. At least people get to know more about it. Siguro kasi ito na lang isip ko, how did benefit a Filipino? Kung boss mo o may-ari ng company mo, Chinoy, how would you relate with them? It benefits you because there are times you have to learn certain cultures, especially what if you're the owner of the company is Chinoy? What if you work for SM, you work for Robinsons, you work for JG Summit? Chinoy yan. How do you understand it? Meron ka ring part na you will adjust to it also. And I know a lot of Filipinos working in the bank, para lang maging progressive ang banking career nila. Natuto Foken, actually natuto. Sabihin, the point is, pansin mo, you have to learn other culture for you to succeed also. And that's part of life right now. That part of success is understanding people. Just like multinational companies, nakita ko na they try to understand other culture before they start doing their marketing. So please follow also sa CNN every Sunday 8 p.m. Chinese by Blood, Filipino by Heart. That's 8 p.m. Ilang episodes na Tito ba?
We were supposed to end na by October 10 Last episode na, but we're adding 6 more. So
wow.
Yeah. So we're finishing by November 21 yata, if I'm not mistaken.
Actually, kasi kit mismo yung sa series, kaya nagustuhan ko siya, it's diverse within the Chinoy. Actually, I saw a diversity within the Chinoys pa lang. Nakita ko yung diversity. Yung nakita ko na parang kala mo na ito na yung episode na sagot na. Pero pagdating next episode, iba na naman makikita mo because within Chinoys, I saw there's a diversity also. There's a diversity. So thank you, Mr. Alvin Kingson Tan, for taking your time. I hope this interview helps. I'll just tag everything. If you want to know more about Chinoy TV, you want to know more about their current series on Chinese by Blood, Filipino by Heart. So hope you join us again for our next interview. God bless everyone.
Okay, thank you, Tommy.